Some Big Ten spring football games start as early as tomorrow. Keys to watch for the Ohio State Buckeyes and Penn State Nittany Lions. We'll let you know what we think, what to prepare for as those two teams prepare to make a run to the top of the conference in 2024. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're going to do a deep dive into Ohio State and Penn State. They have their spring football games Saturday. Northwestern's home games. They have a home site now. We'll tell you where. Sounds pretty. And Tom Izzo's greatest moment, plus our picks going into the weekend. All that coming up right here. So let's check it out. Let's start with Penn State. We're going to dive into Penn State and Ohio State. Let's start with Penn State's blue-white game at Beaver Stadium, 2 o'clock Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. Now, Penn State was really good last year in a division that included Michigan and Ohio State. That was their only weakness, right? Well, the mission is to get over the peak on the mountain here this year. Although it should be noted that with an expanded 12-team playoff, I think this team's a pretty good lock to get into that playoff and continue into the postseason. Everything I want to look at with Penn State is involved around their offense and coordinator Andy Kotelnicki, the brand new offensive coordinator. He comes in. He's new. He's making changes. I want to see what that looks like. I'll bet you do too. Going to be lots of pre-snap motion and movement. A very hands-on offensive coordinator. He bounces around from position room to position room. Very involved. And this team, if it could just add a deep threat to its offense, it could really take off. That's really the thing that was missing, stretching out defenses. Everything else was good. The offense was good. The defense was elite. It was incredible. So if they could get that figured out, how to stretch things out, a couple deep routes here and there just to open things up, I think this team could be a handful for opponents every single Saturday. Now, Drew Aller at quarterback is very, very talented. He needs to take the next step up as well with his offense. Bo Primula is the backup quarterback, just good enough to put some pressure on Aller and just make him, be at his best when you're talking about the depth chart at quarterback there. One player to watch on Saturday is backup center Cooper Cousins. Who's Cooper Cousins? He's a freshman. He's 6'6". He's 320 pounds. Freshman out of Erie, Pennsylvania. Whispers around Happy Valley are that he might be good enough to play right away. Think about that. A freshman on the offensive line at a school like Penn State doesn't happen very often. And he's a bright kid. He's grasping the offense, and I think the coaches are really thrilled with this kid right away. Also, obviously, we're going to watch the wide receiver situation. Keandre Lambert-Smith was asked to be a number 1 last year, although I don't think he really was a number 1. He's good. He's solid. But I don't think you can ask him to be your number 1 guy. Julian Fleming coming from Ohio State. Is he the number 1 guy? I mean, he wasn't number 1 at Ohio State because Ohio State they had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Mecca. It's Egbuka at wide receiver. They had some really good wide receivers over there at Ohio State. They always do. So we'll see how Fleming fits in with another system at Penn State. James Franklin wants things as competitive as possible. And on the defensive side of the ball, they have Tom Allen as the new defensive coordinator. Of course, he was the former head coach at Indiana. He's very loud and intense and in your face. Reports are that he's making the transition from being a head coach to a defensive coordinator nicely, except for when we told you 2 weeks ago, get blowing on his whistle. Finally, James Franklin says, Tom, put the whistle away. Only the head coach blows the whistle. That's how we do things here at Penn State. Tom Allen says, other than that, everything's fun. In all seriousness, everything is pretty good because Allen ran a pretty similar defensive scheme in Bloomington as the one that Manny Diaz and Penn State ran last year. Things are getting real physical in practice. That was by design. A lot more hitting, a lot more tackling this year. And the players seem to like it. They're buying in. And maybe they're buying in with all this because they're trying to impress their new coaches. We've got 3 new coordinators there with the team, and maybe they want to impress their new coach. Make sure you get as much playing time as possible. So those are the things. I think the 2 or 3 things I want to watch when I'm looking at Penn State with their spring game on Saturday. How about you? Regarding the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Scarlett and Gray game for the Buckeyes begins at noon. It'll air nationally on Fox TV. And the story at Ohio State, we've talked about it numerous times in the past couple of weeks. It's the quarterback battle. Will Kansas State transfer Will Howard lock it down? Will he look good? Will he be way more experienced than everybody else on that roster and get a leg up on the starting position? Probably not. But if he does, and even if he does, I don't think Ryan Day would be ready to name a starter this early. That's not his style. I think Ryan Day likes to wait till about a week or a week and a half before the first game of the season to do that. So everybody's working hard and competing, likes people to compete at all their positions. But if he is solid, he will get a leg up on that position. Devin Brown's gunning for him. Devin Brown poured his heart and soul into trying to get the starting job last year with Kyle McCord. Did not get it. Ended up playing in the Cotton Bowl. He's coming back. He's ready to go. There's also a former 4-star Lincoln Keenholz who played in the bowl game as well. We heard a story last week that he might be the odd man out and be hitting the portal as soon as spring football is over. Not sure about that just yet. And let's not forget about the 2 5-star quarterbacks, the freshmen coming in, Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan. Although I haven't heard a whole lot about Aaron Nolan, to be honest with you, but I have heard there's a little bit of a buzz about Julian Sayin, the transfer from Alabama. People like what he's got. The offensive line had some questions last year for Ohio State, particularly second level running game. Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson, they're a pretty firm anchor on the left side, so they're good to go there. But the center and the right side of the offensive lineman is going to get plenty of attention here this weekend. And on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of that talent returns from, again, one of the elite defenses in the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, they were all elite defensively. And a lot of that talent's coming back, but they also get Alabama transfer Caleb Downs at safety. That'll be a nice element added to this Buckeyes defense. I think people are pretty excited about him. So going into this weekend, a spattering of spring games with the Penn State and the Ohio State one. Purdue also giving it a go with Ryan Walters at 12 o'clock. Of course, we'll see Hudson Card get in his second year at quarterback for the Boilermakers. And Ryan Walters, a lot of transfers coming into West Lafayette as he wants to shore up that defense and get that team running to the next level. But as we mentioned many times here on this podcast, their schedule is brutal. It's tough. It's going to be hard to win a lot of games there in West Lafayette this year. All right, so that's a thumbnail of what's coming up. Spring is in the air. That means spring football. There'll be big crowds. A lot of people interested in this stuff. I mean, the game's on national TV in Columbus. And I'm always amazed. I always like to see the people that come out for the spring football games. And, different coaches run them different ways. Some try to keep it as much similar to a real game as possible. Sometimes they'll flip a guy from one team to the other team. Sometimes they'll stop down a lot for a little coaching in between here and there. But that's what spring football is all about, getting ready for the summer. So we'll look forward to all that. And then more games as the following week comes up. I believe Indiana's on Thursday night. Then we get a whole batch, including Michigan, a week from Saturday with their spring games. Give me your thoughts, particularly if you are a Nittany Lion or Buckeye fan. We'd love to hear your expectations for the spring and what you're looking for. In the meantime, Northwestern, it looks like they finally have a football home. Remember, they're tearing down the stadium. Interesting plan here. Share that with you. We'll talk about the Spartans' Aiden Childs and how he is fitting in at quarterback in East Lansing. And speaking of that, Tom Izzo, this might surprise you. He tells us what his most favorite moment as a head coach was. I was surprised. We'll see if you're surprised as well All that's coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's take a look at a few things here. First of all, I want to tell you about eBay Motors. eBay Motors is always with us. We always enjoy talking about them and their passion and their drive and their patience. It is the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, all these things that you need, whether you're into speed, power, style, just looking good in your car, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there that make us go. If you're not an everydayer, we invite you to be. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Just click the button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. No other information required. It gets you connected with us. If you're a Big Ten fan at all, this is the place to be. You can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. But get yourself subscribed. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig1010.com. We archive all of our podcasts there. You get yourself some swag, shirts, pennants, hats, stuff for your desk at work. It's all right there. All right. Northwestern football is an interesting story. Obviously, they surprised everybody last year from going from a one-win season the year before to going to a bowl game. And the thing is, they don't have a stadium to play in. Massive reconstruction project going on with Ryan Field. It takes place, and the majority of Northwestern's games for the 2024 and 2025 season will be right there on campus, right on beautiful Lake Michigan. The practice facility is not too, I mean, you can see Lake Michigan from their practice field. But as far as the campus goes, they're going to have a temporary stadium built on the site where the school's lacrosse and soccer teams play, both men's and women's. And that site will continue to host lacrosse and soccer in addition to football. Basically, just going to be a lot of bleachers, as many as they can get in over there around that facility. They will also play some games at Wrigley Field. They've hosted games there 3 times before. There's some other Chicago locations they're looking at. David Braun says the new Ryan Field will open in time for the 2026 season. This is an $800 million project that began in February, and they're just stuck in no man's land. They need a place to play. The configuration of the new temporary site on campus on the lake hasn't been formally announced yet, but it's coming. Again, I think just they're going to be wrapping as many bleachers around as possible. Season ticket holders will get first priority, and they just have to do what they have to do. From what I hear, the coaches and the players are pretty excited about having an on-campus experience with their home football game. So that part will be cool. It'll be more quaint and intimate, of course, in a smaller area. Now, the Wildcats do have some home games in 2024 that include Miami of Ohio, Duke, Eastern Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Illinois. The Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Illinois game, those might be the games, particularly Ohio State. That's a game they may have to consider moving to Wrigley Field. They just might need more seats, more bleacher space for that. So as soon as we find out about it, we'll let you know. Let's talk some Michigan State here for a moment, both football and basketball. First of all, let's start with football. Their sophomore rush end, Jalen Thompson, spoke with the media this week following spring practice. He commented on new head coach Jonathan Smith and how he really, really likes him. He said Smith is a man of his word, and ever since he stepped in the door on day one, everything he said that he was going to do, he's done. So he's built trust with the team. They all seem to be on the same page. He didn't stop there. He also noticed and commented on quarterback, the new transfer quarterback, Aiden Childs, who came over from Oregon State with Jonathan Smith. And look, he's just not coming in as the favorite son or the favorite player, I should say, of the head coach that came over with him. First of all, Childs is very talented and will do well, I think. But he's in there earning his keep and the trust of his teammates. He's got great work ethic, they say. That's shining through at practice, going long, hitting the weights, meetings, doing stuff weekends and after hours. So he's really bonding with his teammates, according to this. He's just basically trying to do everything he can to be a better quarterback himself. I mean, he has aspirations of the next level as well, and he wants to make Michigan State a better football team. And by the way, he was spotted on campus and therefore on Twitter. I saw this earlier this week, throwing the football a little bit for an intramural flag football team. They've got to be the best intramural team on campus, right? Just don't get hurt. Meanwhile, also talking about the Spartans, their defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, loves their depth at linebacker this year. In fact, the Spartans will be glad to know that Rossi thinks this is the best linebacker room he's ever coached, and he's been coaching a quarter of a century. He feels this group will really contribute to Michigan State's success. Sometimes it's been a problem over the years, but no, he's locked in. He thinks this is a good group. The linebackers at Michigan State. They got veterans like Darius Snow, Cal Halliday. They're ready to go. They like Brady Pretzloff as well. So anyway, good things coming out of Michigan State, at least good news anyway. Speaking of the Spartans, now that basketball season is over, Coach Tom Izzo, he said coaching his son this year was the greatest experience of his career. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy who coached a national championship and also in numerous Final Fours. But no, coaching his son this year was his favorite experience. Steven Izzo, a fifth-year senior, is going to graduate in a few weeks. He's only 5'8". He was a walk-on, and he was there because his dad was a coach, so it was all cool. He joined the program in 2009. Certainly wasn't good enough to play in the Big Ten. He just scored his first career basket late this year. It was kind of a cool scene, actually, if you saw it. So anyway, Izzo's always had a policy with his son, and it was reciprocated. He said, whatever happens in the locker room when coach isn't there, whatever happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, meaning that Steven never told Tom Izzo what any players said about the coach. And there were days that I'm sure players were just mad as heck at Tom Izzo and shared their frustrations, and they're his sons right in the locker room. Maybe they got to be careful. But anything that was ever said in the locker room stayed in the locker room. Steven Izzo never brought it home, never mentioned it to his dad once in 5 years. And Tom Izzo said that he never asked Steven, hey, what's going on in the locker room? Who's saying what? What's the move? Never did it. So he says that was the secret to their success in having their relationship with the basketball court, on the basketball court. Izzo said, look, coaches in the coaching profession, they don't get to spend a lot of time at home, always out on the road, recruiting, coaching, all that. And coaches usually miss years 1 through 18 a lot with their own children. And he said 19 through 23, 24, he got to spend with his kid, great quality time. It was the best time of his entire career. So thought I'd share that with you as well. Now, Izzo's done coaching his son. He's moved on through the ranks. And a lot of people want to know how much longer Tom Izzo's going to go. He turns 70 this basketball season. He's not sure yet. He acknowledges that the game is rapidly changing, and he doesn't like a lot of what's going on with NIL and transfer. He really doesn't like the transfer portal. Izzo says he'll adjust to the changes for now because he still loves the game and he still wants to be around there. So it doesn't sound like his retirement is imminent, but sooner than later. Let's just say that. Hey, let me ask you a question real quick here. Do you watch a lot of daytime TV, sports talk TV, like on Fox or ESPN, all the talking heads and pundits all day? You ever get irritated how they kind of just scream at each other and talk over each other? Well, you probably turn down the volume, but I got another option for you. As long as you're got the remote in your hand, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, which we've always told you about because we're on there. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. We like to make picks on Friday. Well, we don't have any games. We're not doing any picks on point spreads on spring football. we do have the never too early odds of winning a national championship in basketball. We'll tell you who the national leaders are as far as odds making goes, and we'll show you where all the Big Ten teams are. Does your favorite Big Ten team have a chance at succeeding, getting a championship next year? We'll let you know what Vegas thinks. All that's coming up next right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Hey, do you want to go to some games? Maybe you want to go to spring game. Maybe you want to go to some baseball games, Major League Baseball, hockey. Maybe you want to go to a comedy show. Game Time is where you need to get your tickets. Get the Game Time app on your phone. And they are now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And prices come up on the Game Time app, and they actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Imagine that. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So check it out. And you can see, this is my favorite feature, on the phone, you can punch up with the seat you're going to buy, and I'll show you a picture of the view. Make sure you're not behind a pole in Fenway, right? Anything like that. So the app is incredible. The last minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. I spelled it right. $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's put on screen here the odds for winning a national championship in men's basketball this upcoming 2024-2025 season. It's never too early to look at this stuff. We always like looking at this stuff. I'm going to put it on screen. If you're on audio only, you could check it out. I'll give you all the details as much as I can. So here it is. So let's start on the left-hand column. We've got national teams, then the top 5 teams with the best odds of winning a national championship. UConn, plus 1,000, 10-1 odds. That would be a three-peat if they pull that off for Dan Hurley and company. Arizona right behind them with Duke at plus 1,200. A lot of good recruits coming in at Duke this year. Houston, Kelvin Sampson at plus 1,600 is always in the mix, as is Bill Self. Kansas and plus 2,000. All right, the best odds for a Big Ten team, Purdue. Surprised me a little bit, only because they're losing Zach Edey, and he's like over half their offense. But Purdue at plus 2,200 to win a national championship. Those are the best odds of any Big Ten team, followed by Tom Izzo's Michigan State team at plus 3,000. Illinois coming in at plus 4,000, and Wisconsin and Ohio State and UCLA all at plus 6,000. Going to be interested to see how Jake Diebler does at Ohio State. Now that he's the guy, right? He's the guy. No more interim. He's the head coach. We'll see how he does. Let's turn the page and look at the rest of the Big Ten. I told you about UCLA. They will come up first on this second page at plus 600. Rutgers, Michigan, Southern Cal, and Oregon all at plus 8,000. Michigan with new basketball coach Dusty May coming from FAU. We'll see how things go there. We've got Mike Woodson in Indiana. Did I miss Oregon? Oregon at plus 8,000. Indiana plus 12,500. Mike Woodson got to get some recruits from the portal. He's been out there looking for people, and they got a lot of spots to fill on that roster. Maryland plus 12,500 as well. And Iowa sitting at plus 15,000, as is Washington, new member of the Big Ten. Northwestern and Northwestern's plus 20,000. No more boo-booey, and all of a sudden your chances of winning a national championship aren't as good, are they? Nebraska, who had an awesome year this year, they're only plus 25,000. Penn State plus 50,000. Look, I don't have any ideas of Penn State winning a national championship in basketball, but I do like what Mike Rhodes has done there. I think that program's going in the right direction. And then Minnesota, the lowest odds in the Big Ten, the worst odds at plus 75,000. So there you have it, our odds for the 2024-2025 men's basketball championship. What do you think? How about you think your team is in the right spot? Let me know. Always love to hear from you on stuff like that. So, in fact, love to hear from you anyway. You can interact with me on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten number 10. And in fact, let me put that back on the screen for you so you could see that. And also our website, you see the crawl on the bottom, talkbig10number10.com. And you can also hit us up on YouTube as well. I always ask, I'll ask again, please subscribe. That helps us out. Just click it. You're done. No other information required. And then you and I, we're in the same loop every single day. You can subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Check out another episode of Locked On Big Ten after this one. Share it. You got a friend that's a Big Ten fan? Send us their way. Maybe they don't know about us. Word of mouth is fantastic. And then after you're done with that, you can check out another offering from Locked On Sports Today here for you 24/7. Well, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy the spring football games. I know I will. Very anxious to see how all that works out. We'll comment it on Monday's program and look ahead to everybody else that's got a spring game coming up as well. It's basically football season, basically here in the middle of April. So check it out. We'll check it out together. Thank you for joining us here. Can't wait to talk to you next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.